Hello, this is Michael with the patch 8.7 breakdown. I'm just going to go through the champions real quick and I'll let you know whether it's a buff or a nerf and what to expect from that champion going forward. So, Aurelia was just reworked. Like I always say, Riot breaks things and then releases them. So, I'm sure that Aurelia is going to be incredible. Gragas was buffed. If this is like, we don't see Gragas at all right now, but if this is a strong buff, then we could expect to see him in the jungle, maybe in some matchups mid lane, some matchups top lane. Elise, I have seen some Elise on the ladder because the lack of vision actually helps her. It makes her a better jungler in the early game, and she can snowball. So they're giving her a little bit more damage and a little bit of a cooldown reduction on her E. That's a buff. Hecarim was buffed. This isn't a big deal. Hecarim was already able to snowball, strong with Predator. I'm surprised he doesn't see much, like a little bit more play, and he hasn't been used in professional play. He could still go a tanky build and be useful. Maybe it's because he's too farm intensive and doesn't really have hard CC, but I don't know. I could see Hecarim working even in professional play. Ivern, these are buffs. Same thing. I think Ardent Sensor is still a good item. Redemption's a pretty good item. A supportive jungler makes sense to me, depending on what you run in the bot lane with your support. Karthus buffed. I think this is a huge change to Karthus because the base damage means that every time you use your Q, you're doing 10 more damage, and you can use so many Qs in lane. He also received buffs with the Mana Flow ban change. I think that's actually a buff to him if he picks that up. The Presence of Mind change is actually a buff to him as well. And there might be another buff. But Karth is definitely buffed. I think he's strong right now. You could go Precision Second Tree with Presence of Mind and Last Stand. So when you die, you can ultimate. If you kill a couple enemies, your ultimate can be reduced by 10% for each takedown, so maybe up to 50%. I would assume that's how it works. And then also, when you're quote unquote dead in your passive, you deal what, like 10 or 11% more damage. So I think Karthus is in a pretty good spot. Fun solo queue champion. I like playing Karthus. Kayn lets him get to his passive a little earlier. The abilities being queued while casting Q, that's not a huge deal. It's just a quality of life thing. Leona is adaptive for attack damage now, no big deal. Lux buff, I think Lux is the same way as Karthus. She has a couple of indirect buffs in this patch from Mana Flow Band, the Mana Flow Band change from Presence of Mind. This is actually really cool. I've been playing Lux a decent amount recently because I think she's a fun champion. She's very passive in lane, but is very impactful in late game, in mid game and late game. The cooldown being refunded if one or more champions dies within 1.75 seconds of being hit by Final Spark. 30% is a lot. And when you have Lux with Presence of Mind, Transcendence, Ultimate Hat, actually you can't go Ultimate Hat and Mana Flow Band, but I mean you can see some ridiculously low cooldowns on Lux's ultimate in the late game, just like firing her laser at will. I haven't tried it on the new patch yet, but I'm going to, and it sounds like a lot of fun. Malphite, one of my original champions, one of my favorite champions. He gets zero point 0.4 added to 0.4 AP added to his E, which is a lot. That's a lot. That's like getting the passive from Rabadon's just for your E. Attack damage growth. That's going to help him in lane a little bit. It'll help him CS. That's pretty good. His ultimate reduced. That's strong. Malphite could benefit from Presence of Mind. Unlikely. Could benefit from none of the other changes, really. I don't think. Nocturne, bonus attack damage while on Q-Trail increased. No big deal. Nocturne is fine. I don't agree with this. Like it's probably Nocturne was probably hurt more for the average player, but I think at the higher level of play, Nocturne is pretty similar. Olaf is finally getting a nerf, so they go buff nerf because Riot Quinn bug fixed again. Rengar bug fix. Rumble, this is a huge upgrade for Rumble. Rumble has very strong item build paths right now. His Q doing 40 more damage uh, at rank 1 is absurd. That is so good. It's so good. I love Rumble. He's a very fun champion to play. His ultimate's really fun. I would definitely watch out for Rumble in the upcoming patch. Sejuani, a nerf. What took you so long, Riot? Keep nerfing Sejuani. But like I always say, her big problem is her passive. Shaco, he received too big of a buff too big of a compensation buff because of the Duskblade change, and I guess Riot realized that. Swain is super strong right now. This isn't going to kill Swain, but it is going to make him a little less oppressive in lane, I guess. That's what they're trying to do. Ravenous Phlox Icon. I don't know what that is. That's fine. Warwick bug fix, Zed with a slight buff. Ginsu's Rage Blade costs 300 more, no big deal. The total attack speed thing is ridiculous. Changing the cost by 300 gold means that you get it a little less late, but I mean, it's still a very strong item. It didn't do anything to impact the ceiling. It just changes the calculations a little when you're doing gold efficiency and stuff like that. Same thing with or not the same thing with Locket. Locket didn't have its price changed, but it is overall weaker, but it's still very strong. That's really when used, it's very strong. The multiple shield reduction duration doesn't matter because you only really need one in a team fight to get tremendous value out of it. Same thing here. The cooldown, same thing. You're not going to use it twice in a team fight. That's 90 seconds. Unless you get like a Ravenous Hunter, whatever the active item one, Ingenious Hunter. Bonus health ratio. This means that it's stronger in the early game, which means that you could see more champions rush it now for the effective health in the early to mid game. Shield per target's level. Nah, it doesn't really. This doesn't really matter. The base shield alone is very strong. Ninja Tabby, armor decreased, basic attack damage reduction increased. So this means it's probably roughly the same in most situations. It's a little better against marksmen, not as good against AD casters. Maybe that's what it is. Because if Ninja Tabby, if they're reworking Ninja Tabby to make it better against marksmen, less impactful against AD casters and assassins, maybe that's what they're trying to do, is help out assassins with this after the Duskblade change. Aura items. This is a weird one. I'm not sure how to really explain this one. It just has to do with aura items and champion size. I don't think we're going to see a big difference in anything. I doubt that's game breaking. Resolve Tree. Lower health early, more late. That's all you need to know about that. Mana Flow Band. Hitting enemy champions with spells grants maximum mana up to 10 times. Once max stacks have been reached, Mana Flow Band restores missing mana every 5 seconds. Alright, so let's take a look at the Mana Flow Band change. I think overall this is just a gigantic buff. The way that Mana Flow Band used to work, sometimes you would just use Mana Flow Band and it would give you like 70 mana. And that's nice, but it's not really going to make you feel much different in lane. The way that the new Mana Flow Band works is that you're going to get 250 max mana after hitting 10 spells. After 15, every 15, you can do that every 15 seconds. So 15 seconds times 10, that's 150 seconds. That's 2.5 minutes. You can get 250 mana in 2.5 minutes. Mana Flow Band is broken. This means that with the new Mana Flow Band and like Seraph's Embrace, every Seraph's Embrace user, every tier user received a gigantic buff with this. I really mean that. I think that Ryze, Kassadin, Swain, Jace, any champion that has trouble with mana in the early game, they all receive the buff here, and I'm assuming that everyone else is going to be slow to realize how much of a change this is, but I could actually see this impacting the meta in a big way. I think that Seraph's was already the best, so this is going to solidify that, and it's going to make some champions just better because they have 250 extra mana to work with. It's going to help out in the early game. It's going to help a lot. This is going to be a big change. And then we also have the Presence of Mind change I was talking about before. Takedowns restore 20% of your maximum mana and refund 10% of your ultimate's cooldown. So, like I said with Karthus, I think that Karthus specifically is going to benefit a lot from this. I mean, you don't need... Yeah, you're going to go Presence of Mind anyway on Karthus. If you could take this as your secondary, I think you would take it. Yeah, secondary, so you would go... you could do something like Arcane Comet, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Gathering Storm with Presence of Mind and Last Stand. And just run around dying as Karthus and kill everyone else. It's going to be a lot of fun. Karthus is really cool champion. What do we have next? So the Legend Tenacity rune was changed. This isn't a big deal. I mean, this what lets me know that Riot has difficulty staying uniform on stuff, because it's saying underpicked and underperforming. Underpicked means it's not popular. Underperforming would mean that it's not as strong as the other runes. So why would you make it not as strong as the other runes in the beginning? Like, you should have a better handle on your game in terms of balancing things as simple as this. This is just a basic stat. Like, there's either something wrong with your gold calculation, the gold value, the gold efficiency. There's something wrong with tenacity, because most of the time it's just outvalued by other things. Between the way that players play and the way that items are made, something about the tenacity aspect of the game just doesn't function correctly. They probably need to rework it completely. Cut down, still undervalued in my opinion, because the raw damage is just better. It's more consistent and reliable than the thing that kills people faster. Zombie Ward has been nerfed. I mean, in a world without Sightstone, it's probably good to nerf that a little more. Approach Velocity, I think Approach Velocity is really cool. I honestly do not think that it's being outperformed, because it's so unpopular. And it's really not that noticeable. It's funny because all of those people out there who are like, oh, movement speed is so important, they don't like approach velocity still. If you think move speed is that important, then pick a champion that has a slow or something in their kit, and then you have approach velocity all the time, 10% movement speed. That would seem to be good to me. It's just inconsistent thinking there from a lot of people. Absolute Focus. Now lists how much it gives it. Level 1. Not a big deal. The minion changes. So melee minions give 1 more gold. Caster minions give 3 less gold. Siege minions give 15 more gold. Super minions give 15 more gold. That's going to make missing CS a little more important on certain minions, but overall, it doesn't give one team an advantage over the other, so no big deal. And yeah, that's basically it. Patch 8.7, Aurelia is going to ruin your life. Just be prepared for that. If you're not banning Aurelia, then you're a part of the problem, okay? So don't complain to your teammates for not banning Aurelia if you're not going to take the time to ban Aurelia, because you're always going to get the bad one on your team, and the other one on the enemy team is going to get super fed. Just don't let her be in your game, and thank me later.